Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Greg Fine, and this is just an exercise in learning how to do video and communicate with people at this point. But the only way you get good at doing video is by doing it. Do it without getting any practice. But I figured that I'd get started here doing Saturday morning sessions, whenever I get time to do them. But down here in my studio that arguably I might have spent too much money on, but we use it for my company Honorbound IT. We do live streams every Friday afternoon at 4. But I always just want to improve and be able to build out good content, maybe some courseware at some point in time to like teach folks how to do stuff, primarily to teach people how to use technology specifically in their business. A lot of people in my industry, they talk about all these apps and crazy stuff. And It's kind of like a collection of stuff, but they really never show you how to apply it. And This was kind of brought to light when Keith and I came up with a time management course and started saying, hey, listen, what's the problem that we're trying to solve? And then took all the software that we have at our beck and call and sort of showed people how to um, uh, take the technology to solve the problem. So seeing a problem and adding software after that in an organized manner is something that we do at Honorbound IT. But anyways, that's enough of the talk about Honorbound. I get to do that all week, but I figured I'd start a little bit with an origin story. Not a lot of folks know where I came from. I live here in McCook, Nebraska, but I wasn't always from McCook, Nebraska. I'm actually born in Chatham, Ontario, at an early age. and, to be near my mother. But anyways, I was born in Chatham. I'm an expat Canadian. Lived several places. My mom and dad like to move around a lot. So we spent most of my early life in the Woodstock, Ontario area, in the little surrounding little villages and stuff like that. Dad worked for, I think it was Standard Tube at the time. He was a factory worker, worked, the good old 8 hours a day. I'm not sure whether they were doing shift work or not. I don't quite remember that. I was a little bit too small, but yeah, we lived out rurally, had a big garden that was like absolutely awesome, unless you were the person that had to pick rocks and and weed the garden. Don't ever, when we were kids, you could not ever dare tell your mother that you were bored. You go bored. Oh, go pull weeds. And then or pick rocks. And man, like we had this giant mound of rocks. It was so big that we actually built an outdoor shed on top of that as a foundation. Pretty funny stuff. But anyways, we moved into town, and I started my early life in business as soon as we moved to town. Got myself a newspaper job because I wanted to make a few bucks, to be able to enjoy some of the finer things of a kid's life. And yeah, I remember pretty vividly, like the first time that I'd collected and I'd worked so hard, and I think I made like $1.16 or something like that. And I remember crying that I worked so hard for that $1.16. I felt so ripped off, But that kind of didn't stop me from thinking that, hey, I can do better. And so over the years, I think between 9 and 12, I took on other paper routes, and I think we had 300 and some odd pages between my sisters and me, with which the help with the help of my mom and dad, we kept going. Mom handled the money, the accountant of the cash, and paying that weekly bill that we would get from the Sentinel Review in Woodstock. And I'm not sure if Sentinel Review is still around. If one of my cousins is watching this, and you are still in the Woodstock area, comment below and tell me whether the Sentinel Review is still a thing or whether it's gone the way of a lot of newspapers. Anywho, I digress. But it ended up that we made fairly decent cash out of the deal. Mom and Dad helped a lot, particularly on that one day a year where they would have like that special newspaper that had, and I think most newspaper companies had them like once a year where they had a big whole bunch of inserts and stuff. And those papers were flipping heavy, I'll tell you, particularly when you had 300 and change. And each one, to my little body, felt like they were at least a pound a piece. And it kept going back to the corner for the papers. And sooner or later, my dad went, it's getting dark out. And he decided he was going to pack the papers in his car, and he would let me, go and my sisters deliver some papers. And then, he would drive forward. So God bless him for helping us do that over the years. That was a lot of hard work, but we learned how to earn money for the finer things in life. I got myself a Peugeot 10-speed out of the deal, I had that. I sold my banana bike. You remember those old banana bikes? If you're my age, that they had the handlebars and the big long seat with the hoop in the back. And mine had a big fat racing slick, and it was like a 5-speed bike. I mean, it was a pretty sweet little bike for that time. But I wanted to have a racing bike like my dad, so I sold that one to my sister. And it got stolen the next day. So she got the $35 out of insurance, and I was so flipping mad. It's like, dang it, I could have used that $35 towards my bike. But anyways, I ended up paying that over time. That was kind of my first experience with loaning money from anybody. But we learned lots of lessons, and then we decided we were going to move away back into the country, because my mom and dad liked to. Actually, I think it was probably more my dad that liked to buy train wrecks of homes and then fix them up and rebuild them into beautiful homes. So my family bought a nice home out in Embro, Ontario, and so we lived there for a few years. But there wasn't really much in the way of being able to earn money or do business or of any kind out there. So we really didn't do much in the way there. But then we went to Peterborough, and I think I had a paper route for a short stint there. I think it was Toronto Star, and they were big papers every day. Toronto Star was pretty huge newspaper. But then moved on to greater things like grabbing a lawnmower and cutting lawns, and earned quite a bit of money doing that. At that time, I had a little bit of a photography habit. I liked to take pictures. I think it was my dad had a Yashi Pentax KX with a Carl Zeiss lens on it, if I remember correctly. And I remember that the lens was worth more than the body at the time. But yeah, doing a little bit of black and white photography and developing your own film. But that whole business thing gave me enough money that I was able to enjoy that as a young preteen and teenager. But my sisters and I, we did. I think we got into manufacturing. We made these god awful We made these god awful key rings, and they were like little a bead, and they're held together with some pipe cleaners and all these propeller beads, and they were awful. And but we made 70 cents on the dollar on those. Um, I was selling door to door at the time, and it was the bloody middle of the winter. Banging on doors and going until you got a yes. And we did sell quite a few of those. I don't know if my sisters remember doing that, but that's something that I do remember. Sold a little Amway. Don't know how I conned my dad into letting me sell Amway, but I did that for a little while. And, learn that ethic of, small business, you're going to have to take a lot of no's, and so you just like keep bang, 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 until you get a yes. And I think it's a lot harder now because there's a lot more people that are banging on your door. But yeah, I remember that. Those were some good times, some good learning times, but yeah, that was pretty much the end of my business career, though, until I became an adult and, moved to Brockville by way of Quebec. And um, when, yeah, Quebec was kind of a fun place. We'll talk about that another time. But started a business, and it was like it was a horrible idea. I had no business being in business, but started a company called Nations Merchandise Liquidations, and it was almost like the New Hearts. I'll sell you anything for a buck. Was it Daryl, his other brother Daryl, Larry and his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl, do anything for a buck. And sold a lot of stuff, and ended up, selling a lot of computers, computers that were refurbished at the time, and until I started selling new stuff because you have limited supply of refurbished stuff, and that's a whole completely different headache. Then we started doing a little bit of repair. Didn't know what we were doing, but we learned how to do stuff. Back then we didn't have the internet, so we just had to figure stuff out. But yeah, got into the new computer business and had this like early runaway success, absolutely runaway success. We were selling computers back at the time. I think it was the Pentium was just the first ones, and there was the ones when IBM, for some of you computer nerds that are watching this, IBM Cyrix. I don't know if anybody remembers those computers, but we sold a ton of them. I wrote some copy, and back then I couldn't afford to like send anything like to a real printer, so we did everything on photocopies, and these were like eight and a half by 14, like the full legal sized page ads that would kind of give people like the breakdown of their options when they bought a computer from us. So one basic model, and then you could customize it all. You could have a 15-inch monitor, 17-inch monitor, how much memory you wanted to have, how much storage you wanted to have. They all came with a floppy disk drive and your sound card and speakers and all that stuff. And didn't realize that you really shouldn't sell stuff that cheap. And when you're buying stuff as cheap as I was buying, there's typically going to be something wrong with it. And I bought all my stuff from a firm in Toronto. And oh man, that was the days where there were counterfeit capacitors sold, and every one of those stinking computers ended up having a problem. And they're all sold with 3-year warranty, because that's what everybody was doing. And I had a 3-year warranty from the manufacturer, but as soon as the problem started mounting, they went, "Oh, this is only a parts only warranty." So yours truly and team had to do a lot of the repairs themselves, and that got to be very costly to the point where, I was what I felt ethically bound to solve the problems for folks until I had no money left. And, stop being able to pay my bills and all that kind of crazy stuff. So, long story short, runaway success in the sales department, but a total train wreck in the other. So we've learned, we learned, yeah, yeah. And then at my very lowest, I met a wonderful woman, and she imported me down here to McCook, Nebraska. And over time, we started business out of the house, and it outgrew the house. Computer business, because that's all I know. I don't know much of anything else. But we did start our business, Prairie Wind PCs, out of the house, and then since opened a store in McCook. Oh man, I think it was 2001. We opened a store across the road from where we are now, at 114 Norris Avenue in McCook, until we could afford to buy this building here at 109. Yeah, it was. It's been a great experience. Really grateful that our clients and customers have kept us around, longer than most small businesses actually last. To actually beat the odds of, the small business odds. Most fail within the first year to 3 years, and almost none last over 10. We're here at 20 some odd, and I don't want to be cocky because bad things happen to good people, but yeah, it's been a great experience being here. The business has grown, has rebranded. Prairie Wind is still around, but it owns Honorbound IT. But that's a whole nother story that I might share, I might not. It's a whole lesson in don't have partners, but you knew that already. But yeah, we're excited to be here. And I'm just happy to live my life in a really nice little town where life is the speed that I want it to be. We're halfway in between Denver and Lincoln, so everything is a good distance away. But the life is really good. The people are great. And I hope that I'll get a chance to spend some more Saturdays in my studio here, just bantering and telling you a little bit about what's going on in my life and what, whatever rants I might have from time to time. If you want, please comment down below for me, like, subscribe, but do comment, if there's anything that I can do better as far as presenting myself on camera. That's kind of the purpose, early purpose of this whole thing, is to, get better at communicating using video. But if there's topics you'd like to hear about, or family members, if there's a story you'd like me to retell, I'm glad to do that. Anybody in the community that has a story to tell, or maybe you just want to come and banter with me on a Saturday morning sometime, do comment below. I do this because it's fun, and because I spent too much money on all this stuff not to use it. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Appreciate you hanging out with me on a Saturday morning, and we'll talk to you again soon.